I just wanted to do a short video about tire pressure and fitment. So I got these tires to replace the stock rims on this one, and the one thing you really notice is the poke, like how far in they are. These are kind of set into the car, but they're in line with a little mud flat back there. So kind of the way they should be, but they're also, for fuel economy, they're kind of narrow. Now these ones I got off Kijiji, so of course they're not perfect fitment. I wasn't specifying exact back set or offset on, you know, how far from the center of the rim to the face here, the hub face. That's what the offset is. So really it's actually the front of your rotor or the back of the rim where the rim mounts when you say offset. So dead center in the tire is 0, plus is closer to this end. So I think these are plus 40, if I remember right. And they sit much farther out, closer to in line with the fender here, but it actually looks pretty good. And if you had a stanced car, say it was lowered or whatever, then this is kind of where you want it, because you'd want the tire to come up in behind the fender here. Just go right up inside there when you bottom out. And now, that's the thing, even though it's not stanced, when I do bottom out this side while I'm driving or whatever, it's not lowered or anything, it's going to come up into the fender on the inside. Because the problem is you don't want it to be sticking so far out that, yeah, maybe it looks great because it fits and matches your fender width. But if you're too far out, when it comes up, it'll actually touch here. So pulling into a driveway or something, you got all the way to the car, especially in the front on this one tire. And I even see cars, like typical average sedans or whatever, will end up one wheel on the back off the ground as they go into an alley or something like that, if it's a steep enough incline. So definitely these will be way up inside there, and usually there's tons of room up inside there. There's lots of room up inside here for it to go up in there, so even if you're a little bit larger diameter than original, then you can still have lots of room there. The problem I ran into in the other car, which is lowered, is it would rub on parts like this. So plastics like this, they built this, you know, just so it goes from inside of the fender to the outside of the fender, all in one piece of plastic, and they made it wider here for that, as it comes down and keeps the mud off the car or out of the fenders. And so that's where you'll really run into trouble, is it'll be totally fine 99% of the time, and then suddenly you're on a corner, it's fully turned, and it rubs right there. But it doesn't rub down here because it's so far back the car doesn't come up that high, right? It'll never come up there, it'll never touch anywhere in here because it just goes straight up and down. Yes, it goes in and out on an arc, but it'll never be closer to here. But at this point of the tire, as it goes up, it's getting closer to here. And so you'll rub on that one little point inside there. So that's the real thing when you get them really close that you got to watch for. But typically any car, you can go larger diameter overall. And now, when I say larger diameter, I don't mean larger diameter rims. These are larger. I went from 14s to 15s. But these are 195 55 R15s. And the stock ones are 175 70 R14. So the difference here is 70 is the ratio of tread width, 175, to here. It's a ratio, a percentage. I don't know exactly how it works, but basically if I went 175 50, they would be lower in this portion than say these, because these are 195 55. So if I had 175 55, they become smaller on the sidewall, but it changes, that stays the same as the overall diameter gets bigger. So even if I have 195 55 15, 195 55 14, the sidewall height is the same and the tread width is the same. It varies a couple millimeters by manufacturer and tread design and stuff, but very close, basically the same. It's about the same brand of tires in different sizes. As I gain an inch here, I gain half an inch. If I go to 14 15, I gain half an inch of radius, right? If I keep these numbers the same. Let's say I wanted to go to 17s, then I would need to go 195, say 45 R17s. But they probably don't make that. I probably end up having to go 205, in which case I have to go 205 40 17. just because typically as the sidewall gets smaller, the tread width gets wider as what's available. So it's hard to find narrow tires with a low sidewall unless you go to a fuel economy tire, something like that you'd find on a smart car, for example. It'll have a low profile, so it looks sporty, but it'll also be narrow so that you have less contact with the road, so less rolling resistance, and a little bit more aerodynamics by having a thinner tire, because when you look at it from the front, you have that much width of air blocking. You're pushing that much air out of the way. The narrower the tire gets, less air you're pushing out of the way. So, like I say, something on a smart car or some sort of electric car, you're now starting to see a few more narrower ones in like 185s, 195s, in a low profile with 17s or 18-inch rims because of electric cars coming out, and they want to look like their other car that they make. So say you buy the hybrid version or the electric version, like a Kia Soul, for example, it comes with like 20-inch rims, but they're not going to put, 235s, 245 wide rubber on an electric. So you can buy an electric Soul and it's going to be much narrower tires, but they want that same big rim look, so it looks nice. So starting to get more of those tires available, to get low pros that are narrow, so fuel economy minded. And the other thing to note when you change the width of your sidewalls, so you change to 55 versus 60 or 75 or 70 in this case, then your ride changes. It's stiffer. That also varies very much with your tire pressure. So pressure is very crucial. And some of these newer tires, they go higher pressures than the old ones do. These are 45 psi max, and you'll see them up to 51. I think 51 is the highest I've seen. But that is with max load, really. So if you think about it, if this was on a vehicle that would max out the weight of this tire, which it's not. So say I'm typically loading up, I wouldn't load max, you'd probably be maybe 900 pounds on this tire. Then I'd want to push them up to 44 psi. That way I don't get the wearing on the outside edge. So really, tread wear is a good indication of whether or not you have the right pressure. Because if you're too low of a pressure, then you'll end up wearing the outside edge and not the middle, because the middle's squishing into the road and the outside's holding the weight. So the middle's squishing inwards into the tire, not into the road, and the outside's rubbing on the road more. And as you increase the pressure, that pushes the center back out to where it's nice and flat with the road. And if you overpressure, then you're wearing the center out. Now for fuel economy, if you overpressure them, you have less contact patch with the road and you get better fuel economy. But you're wearing your tires out unevenly, and it's also unsafe because you don't have as much grip as you're supposed to. So when you go in the corner, when you brake, for example, one of the most important things, say you're not following a safe distance and you have to brake hard, you're going to end up running into somebody, rear-ending them because your tires are sliding. Or your ABS is twitching because it's going to slide, it's sensing it's sliding, losing grip. Whereas if you have the pressure right, and you got the full patch of the tire on the road, full width, then you won't have that problem, you'll have the proper traction. So these being wider than what was stock, assuming they were the same tread pattern and the same tread wear, same type of rubber, I would actually get more traction with the wider width. But as I change brands, as I change types, as I change tread pattern, completely changes the braking forces and everything of the tire. So you really got to be conscientious of what you're picking and why. So if you want a narrower tire for fuel economy, that's great. I'm all for fuel economy. I love the idea of eco-modding and stuff like that. I do it on my own vehicles. But yeah, when you do that, you got to be conscientious that you're changing the amount of braking force you have, you're changing the amount of cornering force you have, you're changing the amount of acceleration grip you have. And if you're on winters or in any sort of adverse conditions, water and the like, you're going to have problems again. So by going to the narrower tire, stock is always a good choice. And if you have an economical car, then you're going to have a stock economical skinny tire. And also by having that taller sidewall, it eats up more of the little imperfections in the road than this one will. So really, I will get worse fuel economy with this tire, with the bigger rim and the different tread width. It's likely the fuel economy will go down, but it'll be so unnoticeable it won't matter. But then the trade-off too is that these are alloys, so I'm saving weight. And rotational weight actually counts for quite a lot when it comes to acceleration and braking. It counts for more than static weight. So getting going with these tires in the city driving sort of situation, you know, starting from the lights and stuff, I will get better fuel economy with alloys than I will with steel tires. Steel wheels, I mean. So there's pluses and minuses in both ways, and really it's just you got to pick what you want. Do you want fuel economy? Do you want performance? Do you want great brakes? And the look too. Obviously this looks a heck of a lot better than that does, and that's the main reason I went with that. Plus the tires that were on here were bald, so I had to get new ones. Found these at a screaming deal on Kijiji. It's kind of like Craigslist for Canada, only better. And yeah, so they were a good deal. Tread's not bad. They're a little bit uneven where they've worn a little more on the inside than the center, so someone has had them underinflated. That's a pretty typical thing because most tires will not totally hold their pressure. They're always seeping a little bit. So you need to check them regularly. As often as you fill up your gas tank is the best. And you're not having to think about it very much. You just make it a habit. Fill the tank, check the tires. Doesn't take very long. And yeah, then you keep them up where they're supposed to be. Like I said, max out the sidewall reading for fuel economy, but lessen it depending on the load or weight you have in the car. And yes, of course, the capacity you have in here, the pressures that they put on the original stock size in your door. So this even says the others, well, it says the spare size, but both the front and rear usually the same, but it also suggests 30 psi cold. That's like room temperature, like 18 degrees sort of temperature. And with air it does change. So if you go driving, come home and check them, or like I say, check them at the gas station, it'll actually be a little bit higher than that. So when you have a chance, check them when they're cold before you go somewhere, and then that's your starting point. So at your house they're 30, you get to the gas station they're 32. That's normal. That's what's supposed to happen. So, but yeah, with different tires, if I start with 30 on, say, these tires, they're going to look flat. That's the thing too, you got to watch the sidewall look different, look more squished, depending on how much pressure's in them. This one is flat. This is how they came. They were sitting around for a while before I bought them, so it's pretty squished. But I figure that's about 10 psi or so. So I'll pump this one up to 44 as well. And then I'll eke a little out, probably put them at 40 and see how they wear. Because that's usually how I do it. I like to have them higher because they roll better. Better fuel economy, better highway economy. And yeah, I guess that's it.